The sky of Varelia Prime shimmered like liquid silver when the human research ship, Sol Horizon, landed near the royal palace. The planet was beautiful but tired, its forests scarred by old wars, its rivers glowing faintly from strange minerals. The air smelled of rain and ozone. Ethan Cole stepped out of the ship with careful wonder. He had been many places across the stars, but nothing felt quite like this world. The Varelians were a proud species, tall, graceful beings with pale, crystal-like skin and bright eyes that reflected the sky. They were cautious around humans, yet hopeful that cooperation could heal their dying planet. Ethan wasn't a soldier or explorer. He was a biotech engineer, part of a joint program between Earth and Varelia. His mission was to help develop genetic restoration nanites, tiny machines that could repair living cells and restore balance to ecosystems. The project was delicate, and one mistake could cause disaster. The royal family of Varelia had shown great interest in the human technology, especially Princess Lysera, the youngest daughter of the Varelian High Monarch. She was known for her curiosity and kindness. Unlike many nobles, she spoke directly with scientists and helped in their work. She had a sharp mind, always asking questions that surprised even human experts. Ethan met her for the first time in the palace laboratory, a vast hall of glowing instruments and floating data crystals. Lysera stood beside a transparent wall where vines of blue light grew. She turned when he entered. "So you are the human who can heal worlds," she said with a small smile. Ethan laughed softly. "I wouldn't say that, Your Highness. I'm just trying to make things a little better." "Then we share the same dream," Lysera replied. "My people have lost so much. If your science can bring life back, I want to understand it." From that day, they worked side by side. Lysera learned fast. She handled the glowing vials with care, adjusted instruments with steady hands, and listened to Ethan's every explanation. Over weeks, their work made progress. The nanites began showing signs of success, healing damaged roots, purifying water, even reviving dead cells of native plants. Ethan admired Lysera's courage. She was a princess, yet she spent her days among chemicals and lab drones, ignoring royal traditions. Sometimes she told him stories of her ancestors, how they once lived in harmony with nature before greed and war poisoned their world. Ethan listened quietly, understanding that her hope for science was really a hope for redemption. One afternoon, during a test of the hybrid bio-nanite serum, things changed. The palace lab was filled with humming machines. The air sparkled faintly as nanite dust floated in containment fields. Lysera wore a silver containment suit standing near the main console. Ethan checked his scanner. Everything looked stable. "This version should react only to plant cells," he said. "No living tissue." Lysera nodded. "We must make sure it's safe." The High Council already doubts human science. They activated the serum's main chamber. A glowing sphere rose in the center, pulsing softly. Data screens showed streams of numbers as the nanites synchronized with bioenergy patterns. Ethan leaned closer to check a reading. That's when an alarm flashed red. "Wait, energy spike," he shouted. Before he could act, a bright wave burst from the chamber. The containment field flickered, then exploded with a flash of blue light. Lysera cried out as energy rippled through the air. Ethan moved without thinking. He grabbed her arm and pulled her down, covering her as a shockwave passed through the lab. Instruments fell, lights flickered, and the air smelled of hot metal. When it was over, silence filled the room. Ethan slowly stood, checking her suit for damage. "Are you hurt?" Lysera looked shaken but unharmed. "No, I'm fine. Just dizzy," he sighed with relief. "Good. The containment crystal must have overloaded. I'm sorry, I didn't see that spike coming." She smiled weakly. "You saved me, again." Ethan helped her to a chair and began scanning the chamber. The serum had stabilized on its own. The nanites seemed dormant now, though the readings were strange. A new pattern had formed, something he couldn't identify. "What happened?" Lysera asked, watching the screens. "I'm not sure," Ethan admitted. "It looks like the nanites bonded with your energy field for a moment, then adapted. They might have copied part of your biosignature before shutting down." "Will it harm me?" she asked calmly. "No," he said quickly. "There's no sign of infection or damage. The suit shielded you from any direct contact." Lysera nodded, still composed despite the near disaster. "Then let's keep this quiet for now. The council would panic if they heard about an accident." Ethan agreed. He didn't want anyone blaming her or him for a malfunction that seemed more like a mystery. Together, they spent the rest of the day repairing the lab and running tests. Everything appeared normal again. Yet one scanner kept showing faint energy around Lysera, like a soft pulse of life that didn't belong there before. Later that evening, as the twin moons rose above the palace gardens, Lysera visited the balcony where Ethan was recalibrating his drone. She wore a flowing robe that shimmered under the moonlight. "You look troubled," she said gently. Ethan hesitated. "I just can't figure out what happened back there." "The nanites shouldn't have reacted that way. It's like they recognized you." Lysera looked at the stars. "Perhaps they did. My people once believed the energy of life responds to emotion, not logic. Maybe your machines felt my fear." Ethan smiled faintly. "If that's true, then you have more control than you think." She turned to him, her eyes bright. "Do you regret coming here, human? Working with us?" He shook his head. "Not for a second. Helping another world heal, it's what I've always wanted, even if things go wrong sometimes." "Then perhaps fate brought you here for more than science," she said softly, then walked back toward the palace. Ethan watched her go, feeling both curious and uneasy. The data still didn't make sense. But for now, he let the mystery rest. Days turned into weeks. The lab returned to normal activity. Reports showed improved soil health and cleaner air. The High Monarch praised the human team for their success. Yet Ethan noticed small changes around the palace. The energy sensors near Lysera's chambers always showed slight fluctuations. The princess herself seemed radiant, full of strange calm. When she smiled, people around her felt lighter, more hopeful. Some even said the dying plants in the garden started blooming again wherever she walked. Ethan didn't believe in superstition, but he couldn't ignore the data. The same pulse from the day of the accident still echoed faintly in his instruments whenever Lysera was near. One evening, while reviewing the data alone, he whispered to himself, "What did we really create that day?" He didn't know it yet, but that small accident in the lab had already changed everything, not just for him or for Lysera, but for two entire species. Something new had begun, quiet and unseen, carrying a promise neither human nor Varelian could have ever imagined. Weeks passed quietly after the lab accident on Varelia Prime. The palace looked calm again, the sky glowing in soft shades of blue and gold. But deep inside the royal halls, strange whispers had started. The servants noticed that Princess Lysera had changed. She seemed brighter, more alive. Her steps were lighter, and her voice carried warmth that made people around her smile for no reason. Even the palace gardens, once dry and gray, had begun to bloom again. Flowers that had not grown in decades now opened when she passed by. At first, everyone thought it was a coincidence, a pleasant one. But Lysera herself felt something different. She could sense energy flowing through her body, a soft pulse that was not there before. It frightened her at first, but there was also peace in it, like being connected to something bigger. She kept the secret from most people, telling only one person, Ethan Cole. One night, she found him in the research lab again, studying nanite patterns. The soft hum of machines filled the air. She entered quietly, holding a glowing crystal in her hand. "Ethan," she said, "I think there's something you need to see." Ethan turned, surprised by her serious tone. "What's wrong?" She placed the crystal on the table. "It's a medical data crystal. My physicians took readings because I've been feeling strange." He connected the crystal to his scanner. Blue light filled the screen, showing layers of biological data. Ethan frowned, reading each line carefully. Then his eyes widened. "This can't be right," he whispered. "What does it say?" Lysera asked softly. He looked at her, unsure how to explain. "These readings show a new life pattern inside you, like new cells forming. It's not an illness. It's development." Lysera tilted her head. "Development? You mean?" Ethan swallowed hard. "I mean, growth. A living organism." There was silence. The only sound was the hum of the scanner. Lysera's bright eyes searched his face, trying to read the truth. "But that's impossible," she said finally. "My kind cannot create new life so easily. Our bodies require long synchronization rituals, and even then many fail." "I know," Ethan said. "But the data is clear. There's new genetic material inside you, a perfect fusion between your DNA and something else." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Human?" He nodded slowly. "It seems so." The room felt suddenly small. Lysira sat down, hands shaking slightly. Ethan took a deep breath and tried to speak calmly. This isn't your fault. It must have happened during the lab accident. The nanites reacted in a way no one expected. They were designed to restore and blend genetic codes. Somehow they connected your energy field with mine. Lysira's voice trembled. You mean, that day in the lab, it created life? Yes, Ethan said softly. But it shouldn't have been possible. They both sat in silence. Outside, rain began to fall on the palace windows, filling the room with a soft sound. Finally, Lysira smiled faintly. Do you realize what this means? Our two worlds. They were never meant to share life. Yet here we are. Ethan rubbed his forehead, overwhelmed. The council will never believe this was an accident. They'll think we planned it, that humans wanted to mix our genes on purpose. Then we must find the truth before they find us, she said quietly. The next morning, Lysira requested a private audience with her royal physician. The old Varelian doctor was loyal and wise. When he confirmed the readings, his eyes filled with disbelief. Your Highness, there is no mistake, he said. I sense 2 heartbeats. One is yours. The other is new. Lysira's expression was calm. You will not report this to the council yet, she said firmly. This is not something for them to decide. The doctor hesitated but obeyed. He knew the princess was strong-willed. Meanwhile, Ethan spent sleepless nights running simulations. The hybrid readings fascinated and terrified him. The nanites had done something beyond science. They had created a perfect balance between 2 species that evolution had kept separate. He looked at the data, trying to understand the impossible. How could life adapt this fast? He whispered. How could nature accept it so easily? The more he studied, the more questions he had. Yet every question led to the same truth, and this was real. It was happening. A week later, things changed again. The High Council of Virelia summoned the scientists for an update. They were pleased with the environmental results, and the forests were slowly healing. But one counselor, Lord Sarek, seemed suspicious of the human technology. These nanites, Sarek said, his tone sharp. They alter the laws of nature. Can you guarantee they have not corrupted our species? Ethan bowed slightly. We have run every safety test, sir. There has been no contamination, Sarek interrupted. And yet I hear rumors that the princess herself spends hours in the laboratory with you, exposed to your machines. Tell me, human, are we testing our world or our bloodlines? The hall went silent. Lysira rose from her seat. Enough, Lord Sarek. You will not question my work or my honor. I stand by our alliance with humanity. Without them, Virelia would still be dying. The council murmured among themselves. Sarek gave her a cold look but stayed quiet. After the meeting, Ethan met Lysira in the garden. She looked calm, but he could see tension in her eyes. They suspect something, he said quietly. They always do, she replied. But they will not stop us from learning the truth. Ethan hesitated. Lysira, if this continues, the truth will come out eventually. You're carrying something new, something they might not understand. She turned to him and smiled softly. Then we will help them understand. Perhaps this is not a curse, but a gift. He looked at her, seeing both courage and kindness in her eyes. You're not afraid? I was, she admitted. But now, I feel hope. For the first time in many generations, I feel life returning to our people. Maybe this was meant to happen. Ethan wanted to argue, but her words carried calm strength. Days passed, and the secret became harder to hide. The royal physician's assistant noticed strange energy readings in the princess's chambers. Rumors started spreading in the palace, whispers of miracles and forbidden science. One night, Ethan was awakened by the sound of guards outside his room. A messenger entered, bowing deeply. The High Monarch requests your presence at once. Ethan dressed quickly and followed them to the great throne room. The walls shimmered with symbols of light. Lysira stood beside her father, her expression unreadable. The High Monarch's voice was deep and calm. Human Ethan Cole, my daughter tells me there was an incident during your research. You claim it was contained, yet strange things have followed since then. Ethan bowed. Your Majesty, it's true there was a malfunction, but it caused no harm to your people or your land. In fact, the nanites have improved our restoration results beyond expectation. The monarch nodded slowly. Yes, but what of my daughter's strange condition? Her aura glows with new energy. The healers say it carries traces of your science. Ethan froze. The secret was no longer safe. Lysira stepped forward, her voice steady. Father, this is not corruption. It is creation. A new life, one that carries both our worlds within it. The hall filled with gasps. Counselors began whispering. Lord Sarek stood up in shock. Blasphemy! This is manipulation of royal blood! The monarch raised his hand for silence. His eyes studied his daughter's calm face, then turned to Ethan. Is this true? Ethan took a slow breath. Yes, Your Majesty. But it was not by design. It was an accident of science, an unexpected result of the energy fusion. I never meant for it to happen. Lysra placed her hand over her heart. Yet it happened, and I'm not ashamed. The monarch's expression softened, but the room filled with tension. He finally said, Leave us. Tomorrow the council will decide what to do. As Ethan was escorted away, Lysra met his eyes and gave a small, reassuring nod. Outside the chamber, Ethan looked up at the alien sky filled with glowing rings of color. He felt both fear and wonder. The discovery that had changed everything was no longer a secret, and the world was about to decide whether to accept it or destroy it. The news spread through Veralia like lightning. The princess was carrying something never seen before, life that was half Verelian, half human. For many it was a miracle. For others it was a disaster. The High Council called an emergency meeting in the Great Hall of Harmony. It was a shining circular chamber made of glass and silver, with the Verelian symbol of unity glowing in the center. Outside, citizens gathered in silence, unsure whether to celebrate or fear what they had heard. Inside the hall, the air felt heavy. The High Monarch, Lysra's father, sat on the main throne. His face was calm but tired. Around him stood 12 council members, their robes glowing with faint light. Ethan Cole stood near the back, flanked by 2 guards. Lysra was beside him, her chin high, her expression proud and calm. Counselor Sarek, the most outspoken of the elders, struck the first blow. This is not a gift, he declared loudly. It is corruption. Our sacred blood mixed with alien flesh. Humanity has overstepped its place. This child, whatever it is, should not exist. The hall echoed with murmurs. Lysra stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. You speak of corruption, Lord Sarek, yet you forget our world was already dying before humans came. They helped restore our soil and air. They gave us a chance to live again. If this life was born from their science and our spirit, then perhaps it is meant to be. Sarek's eyes narrowed. You defend them because you are blinded by emotion, Princess. You let them poison your body with their machines. Ethan clenched his fists but stayed silent. He knew speaking now would make things worse. The monarch finally raised his hand. Enough. The council will hear the facts before judgment. He turned to Ethan. Human, tell us what truly happened in the laboratory. Ethan took a deep breath. Your Majesty, the incident was an accident. The containment system failed during a nanite test. There was no intention to alter life forms or merge genetic patterns. But the reaction created a bond I could not control. It was not done by will. It was pure science reacting in ways we didn't predict. Counselor Velna, one of the younger members, looked curious. You claim it was not your doing, yet the result is life. Are you saying the universe chose this path? Ethan nodded. Maybe it did. Sometimes discoveries are not planned. They just happen. What matters is what we do next, how we treat the new life that exists now. The words made the room go quiet for a moment. Even the monarch looked thoughtful. But Sarek wasn't done. You speak of fate, Sarek hissed. But I see manipulation. Humanity has always sought influence in other worlds. Now they seek it in our royal line. This so-called child is a weapon, a symbol to control us. Lysra's voice rose sharply. Enough, Sarek. You will not insult my honor or this life. I chose to work with humans because I saw hope in them. Ethan Cole is not a manipulator. He saved me, he helped us, and he has shown more respect for our world than many of our own. The crowd gasped. Lysra rarely raised her voice, but this time it carried power. Sarek glared at her. Then you admit you care for this human? I admit that I trust him, she said calmly, and that this life inside me is proof of cooperation, not control. The council broke into loud debate. Some shouted that this was blasphemy. Others argued that maybe the princess was right. The monarch watched silently, his hands clasped, his face unreadable. Finally he stood. The hall fell silent. The council will vote, he said. But before we do, I will speak as a father and as a ruler. Our people have suffered for too long from pride and fear. If this event was caused by hatred, I would condemn it. But I see no hatred here, only confusion and wonder. Sarek protested. You cannot allow this. The monarch's tone turned sharp. I have not finished. Even Sarek bowed his head. The monarch continued, softer now. Still, this union brings risk. Our alliance with humanity is fragile. The galaxy watches us. If they believe we have been altered or weakened, we may face war. So the Council must decide how to protect both our world and this new life. Councillor Velna spoke carefully. Then perhaps exile would be wise. The princess and the human could live safely away from politics while we study the effects from afar. Lysera's eyes widened. Exile? You would send me away from my home? It would protect you, Velna said kindly, and protect our people from fear. The monarch closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded slowly. Perhaps exile is indeed the only way. Until we understand this event, you must leave Virelia, Lysera. Ethan's chest tightened. If she goes, I go with her, he said immediately. This was my fault too. Lysera looked at him and smiled faintly, her eyes soft with gratitude. Sarek sneered. How noble of you, human, to take our princess away as if she were your companion. Lysera glared at him. Enough, I am not being taken. I choose to go. Her words silenced the room. The monarch sighed deeply, sadness in his voice. Then it is decided. Tomorrow at dawn you will both leave this world. The Council's ships will escort you to the edge of our space. You will not return until the time is right. Lysera bowed her head slowly. As you wish, father. The monarch rose from his seat and approached her. For a long moment he simply looked into her eyes. Then in a soft voice he said, You are my daughter. No decision can change that. Go in peace and may the stars guide you. Lysera's eyes shimmered, but she did not cry. She turned and walked out of the hall with steady steps, Ethan following close behind. The murmurs of the council faded behind them. Outside the palace, night had fallen. The twin moons hung low over the gardens, casting silver light over the flowers that now glowed faintly. Lysera stopped near the fountain where they had once tested the first samples of nanites. So this is how it ends, she said quietly. Ethan shook his head. No, it's how something new begins, she smiled. You always see light where others see shadow. It's what humans do, he said softly. We keep hoping. They stood there for a long time, listening to the soft sound of the water. In the distance, palace guards prepared a small ship for them, a vessel with enough supplies to reach neutral space. As the dawn approached, the city gathered silently to watch the departure. Some citizens bowed in respect. Others turned away, afraid of what it meant. But no one threw stones or shouted. The sight of their princess walking beside a human, head high, filled many with quiet awe. The High Monarch stood on the balcony, his robes shimmering in the morning light. He raised his hand in farewell. Lysera returned the gesture, her face calm and proud. When the ship's engines roared to life, the crowd held its breath. Slowly, the vessel rose from the ground, glowing softly against the pale sky. Inside, Lysera sat near the viewing window, watching her home shrink behind her. Ethan took the seat beside her, adjusting the navigation controls. You don't have to do this, she said softly. I do, he replied. I can't leave you alone in this. She looked at him for a moment, then smiled. Then we faced the stars together. The ship lifted higher until the clouds disappeared and the stars filled the view. Virelia Prime grew smaller, fading into a silver-blue dot. Ethan looked at the endless space ahead. Where should we go? Lysera touched the map display and pointed to a small, quiet system near the edge of known space. There, a moon where life still grows wild. We can start there. Ethan nodded, setting the course. The engines hummed softly as the ship glided forward. Behind them, Virelia turned slowly in the light of its twin suns. Ahead of them lay the unknown, a place where two lives and perhaps two worlds could begin again. The Celestia, a small but sturdy human starship, hovered silently above Alaris Prime. Its silver hull gleamed in the twin suns' light as ground crews made final preparations. Inside, Princess Liara and Ethan were ready to leave their home planet behind. Liara's hands rested lightly on her growing belly. Though she remained calm on the surface, her heart pounded. She knew the journey ahead would be difficult, but the thought of protecting her child gave her strength. Ethan stood beside her, adjusting his jacket and checking navigation panels. He had spent hours calculating a safe course through uncharted space, avoiding known trade routes and potential patrols from suspicious governments. Are you sure this is safe? Liara asked quietly, her violet eyes looking out the window at the shrinking surface below. Ethan nodded. As safe as we can make it. The moon we're heading to is remote, uninhabited, with plenty of resources. We'll have privacy and time to study the child's development. Liara's lips curved into a faint smile. You always find a way. He shrugged, but his eyes softened. We'll make a way together. The Celestia lifted slowly, gliding above the planet's surface before slipping into the dark vacuum of space. For a long moment, the human engineer and the alien princess watched their homeworld disappear. This is strange, Liara whispered. It feels like leaving a lifetime behind in a single moment. It is, Ethan said. But sometimes we must leave what we know to protect what we love. For hours they traveled in silence, the soft hum of the ship the only sound. Ethan monitored the life support systems while Liara studied the medical scans of her own body. The child inside her was growing faster than expected. The hybrid energy readings were unlike anything either human or Alarian science had ever seen. You're going to be strong, Ethan said quietly, watching the pulses of light on the scanner. I'll make sure of it. Liara's hand touched his arm. And I'll make sure our child feels safe. Together. The first challenge came sooner than expected. 3 days into their journey, the ship's sensors picked up a small fleet of unknown vessels approaching from the outer edge of the system. Ethan immediately went to the control panel, his hands moving quickly across the holographic displays. They're unregistered, he said. Small ships, lightly armed but moving fast. They've detected us. Liara's expression hardened. Pirates? Possibly, Ethan replied. But they could also be scouts sent by the Council or factions that oppose our child's existence. The warning lights flashed, but Liara's calm voice cut through the tension. We will face them, and we will survive. Do you trust me? Ethan looked at her, and the weight of their mission pressed down on him. Always, he said. They engaged the ship's stealth systems, rerouting power to shields and engines. The Celestia vanished from sensors just as the fleet reached the coordinates. For hours they drifted silently, undetected. The small convoy scanned the sector, but none noticed the human and Alarian aboard their hidden ship. Finally, the danger passed. Ethan let out a long breath. That was too close. Liara rested her head on his shoulder. Then we must be ready for the next one. Days turned into weeks. They traveled through empty space, avoiding patrols, asteroid belts, and gravitational anomalies. Ethan taught Liara how to pilot the ship in case he was ever incapacitated. She was quick to learn, her alien reflexes making her an excellent trainee. At night, they would sit in the observation lounge, staring out at the endless stars. Liara often spoke of her home, her people, and her hopes for the child. Ethan listened, learning more about her culture, her dreams, and her quiet strength. One night, as a distant nebula painted the sky in purple and gold, Liara spoke softly. Do you ever wonder what kind of life this child will have? Ethan looked at her, a small smile on his face. I do. I imagine a life where humans and Alarian work together, where the child will be proof that cooperation is stronger than fear. She nodded. I hope they see us as friends. Not enemies, Ethan took her hand gently. They will, because we will show them. The journey was not only dangerous but exhausting. Liara's body was changing daily, and Ethan monitored her health constantly. The hybrid energy inside her pulsed like a soft heartbeat, glowing faintly in the scanner. It was beautiful, mysterious, and sometimes unpredictable. One morning, alarms rang suddenly. Ethan rushed to the control panel. Solar flare detected. It's heading straight for us. Liara braced herself as the ship shook. Ethan adjusted shields and rerouted energy to protect the ship's interior. Sparks flew from the control panels and the ship pitched violently. Hold on, Ethan shouted. Liara gripped the edge of the console. The flare passed in minutes, but the Celestia had sustained minor damage. Ethan immediately began repairs while Liara used her knowledge of alien biology to stabilize the child's energy. You saved us, Liara said softly, looking at him with gratitude. Ethan shook his head. We saved each other. As they neared their destination, the small moon appeared in the viewport. It was untouched by civilization. Dense forests, clear rivers, and gentle hills stretched as far as the eye could see. A perfect place to start a new life. Liara's eyes sparkled. It's beautiful, Ethan nodded. And safe. We'll land on the northern plain, plenty of water, and no known predators. The ship descended slowly, engines quieted, and they touched down on soft grass. Liara stepped out first, feeling the wind and sunlight on her skin. The air was fresh and clean, filled with the scent of wildflowers. "This is where our child will grow," she said, looking out over the landscape. Ethan smiled. "And where we'll protect them. Together." They began setting up a small base with supplies from the ship. The days were filled with hard work, gathering water, building shelter, and planting food. Yet every evening they would sit together watching the stars. The child inside Liara seemed to respond to their presence, pulsing softly, almost like it was aware of them. One evening, as the moons rose in the sky, Liara rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. "Do you think the galaxy will ever accept this child?" Ethan thought for a moment. "I don't know, but if anyone can change minds, it's you. And me," she smiled faintly. "Then we have hope." Unknown to them, far across the stars, a small group of Varelian young reformers had tracked the Celestia. They believed in Liara's vision and wanted to ensure her safety. They watched the planet below, unseen, knowing the princess and the human were building a future that might unite two worlds. Meanwhile, Lord Sarek and other council extremists plotted against them. They had sent scouts to follow the Celestia and report back. They feared that the hybrid child would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Ethan knew the danger was not over. Liara sensed it too, yet both remained calm. "We will not be afraid," she said one night. "We protect life no matter the cost." Ethan held her hand. "And we will, always." The stars above glimmered with distant suns, silent witnesses to their determination. Two hearts, one human and one alien, beat in unison with a new life, a life that carried the hope of two worlds. And so, on a quiet moon at the edge of known space, they began a journey not only of survival, but of love, trust, and the promise of a future no one had ever imagined. The small moon glimmered under the twin moons of the distant star system. Its forests whispered softly with the wind, and the rivers shone like liquid crystal. On its quiet plains, Ethan and Princess Liara had built a new life, one filled with hope, courage, and love. The weeks had passed slowly but steadily. Their small base was now a home, with a simple garden, freshwater pools, and shelters for all necessities. Liara's body was changing, her energy glowing softly, and Ethan monitored her constantly, ensuring the child grew safely. The child's presence was already felt. The soft pulses of energy emanating from Liara seemed to respond to their emotions. When she laughed, the light shimmered brighter. When Ethan placed a hand over her stomach, it pulsed warmly, as if recognizing him. Liara sat by the riverbank one morning, feeling the soft grass beneath her. The child moved inside her, making her smile despite the lingering tension in the galaxy. "We've done it," she whispered to Ethan, who stood beside her. "We're alive, safe, together." Ethan smiled, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, and our child will grow up in peace, at least for now." Her violet eyes looked at him, full of warmth. "Do you think the galaxy will forgive us?" Ethan shrugged. "Some will. Some will always fear what they don't understand. But we will show them. One day our child will be the bridge between worlds." Days passed in quiet joy, filled with simple moments, teaching each other, exploring the forests, and laughing at the small animals that came near their camp. But the galaxy was never completely silent. Far beyond the star system, the Varelian Council was still in turmoil. Lord Sarek had not given up. He sent scouts, and small reports began arriving that the human and the princess had reached a remote moon. The extremists were enraged, but some of the younger reformers quietly cheered. Liara's vision of a hybrid child could unite the galaxy in ways no one had imagined. Ethan studied the incoming messages cautiously. "They are still watching," he said. "We need to stay prepared." Liara placed a hand on his arm. "Let them watch. We have done nothing wrong. We protect life, and that is always right." Ethan nodded, though he felt the tension deep in his chest. He had faced dangers before, but nothing as personal as this. The child inside Liara was not just life, It was hope, fragile and bright. As the moons passed over the horizon, Liara felt the first real movement of the child, a gentle, almost playful kick. She gasped, a smile spreading across her face. "It's real," she whispered. "It's here. Our child is here." Ethan knelt beside her, placing his hand gently over her stomach. "Hello," he murmured softly. "I'm here. We're both here." The pulse of energy from the child seemed to brighten, and Liara's eyes glimmered. "It's responding to us," she said. "Already?" Ethan chuckled softly. "Maybe it knows we're ready to protect it." They sat together, watching the sunrise paint the sky with gold and violet. For the first time, they allowed themselves to imagine a future beyond danger, a future where humans and Alarian could live together in harmony. But peace rarely comes easily. One night, the sensors picked up small ships approaching. Ethan's heart sank. "They've found us," he whispered. Liara placed her hand over his. "We will face them," she said. "As we always have." The ships descended, small but fast, lights glowing as they scanned the area. But instead of attacking immediately, the ships held their distance. A single message came through, encoded in Varelian channels. "This is Lord Sarek of the High Council. Surrender the child for examination, or face consequences." Liara's face hardened. "We will not surrender life to fear." Ethan activated the ship's defensive systems, though his heart hoped they wouldn't need them. Surprisingly, the ships did not fire. A moment of silence passed. Then, another transmission arrived, this time from a reformer faction within the council. "Princess Liara, human Ethan," the voice said. "We support you. We know the child is a symbol of hope. Do not fear our people who wish to harm you. You are not alone." Liara's shoulders relaxed. "Thank you," she whispered. "Tell your people, life must be protected." The small fleets hesitated, caught between extremists and reformers. And for the first time, the power of Liara's courage became clear. Her unwavering stance had shifted even the hearts of her enemies. Weeks turned into months. The child grew inside Liara, the hybrid energy strong and vibrant. It pulsed in rhythm with the moons, almost like it had its own heartbeat. One morning, Liara awoke to a bright glow surrounding her. She touched her stomach and gasped. The child was ready. Ethan helped her to the medical station they had set up. He monitored her vitals carefully, staying calm as Liara's body underwent the final stages of childbirth. "It's time," he said softly. Liara nodded, taking a deep breath. The pain was intense but mixed with awe. She could feel life passing from her body, a miracle she had never imagined. Then with a final pulse of energy, it was over. Liara opened her eyes to see their child resting in a small cradle of soft light, its tiny form pulsing gently. Ethan reached out, his hand trembling, and touched the small, glowing form. The child turned its head and both parents gasped. The eyes were a brilliant mix of violet and green, glowing faintly with alien and human energy. "It's perfect," Liara whispered, tears streaming down her face. Ethan smiled, a mix of relief and joy flooding him. "Our child really is perfect." They both leaned over, placing their hands gently on the child. The energy pulsed brighter, as if recognizing the warmth and love of its parents. Liara smiled, her voice filled with emotion. "We did this. We protected it. And we will continue to protect it, no matter what." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had ever known. Together, always. News of the child soon spread across the galaxy. Some worlds marveled at the miracle, others feared it. But slowly, hearts began to change. Stories of courage, unity, and hope traveled faster than gossip or fear. Liara's child became a symbol, proof that humans and Alarian could coexist, that life could flourish beyond old divisions. Even Lord Sarek's forces hesitated, unsure how to act against a symbol so bright and real. Many joined the reformers, pledging to protect the child and the parents who had risked everything. Liara and Ethan watched from their quiet moon, their small family safe for the first time. They had faced fear, danger, and doubt, but love and determination had carried them through. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Liara held the child close. Ethan stood beside her, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "Our child will show the galaxy that life, hope, and trust are stronger than fear and hate." Ethan smiled, watching the gentle glow of their child. "And we'll be there, every step of the way." The stars above twinkled, silent witnesses to a new chapter in the galaxy. Two worlds had joined through courage and love. And on that quiet moon, under the light of twin moons, a new life pulsed with promise. The first of many bridges between humans and Alarian, the living proof that hope could survive anywhere.